The United States spans 3.794 million square miles of diverse territory, but scattered across this vast landscape are geographic oddities that would make any traveler question exactly how they came to exist. There's a piece of Minnesota that you literally cannot reach without leaving the United States first. There's an American state that's actually closer to Africa than Florida is. These aren't random trivia facts, they're real geographic mysteries that exist across America today, each one revealing how historical accidents, natural forces, and surveying errors created some of the strangest boundaries on Earth. The reasons these places exist will completely change how you think about US geography. The American territory you can't reach by car. Picture this scenario. You're a Minnesota resident who wants to visit the northernmost part of your own state, but you need to pack your passport because you literally cannot get there without crossing into Canada first. This isn't some bureaucratic nightmare or travel mix-up. It's the daily reality for anyone trying to reach the northwest angle, a 621 square mile chunk of Minnesota that dangles from the Canadian border like a geographic afterthought. The northwest angle holds the distinction of being America's northernmost point in the continental United States, yet reaching it requires a 40-mile drive through Manitoba, Canada. This bizarre situation exists because of a monumental surveying error that occurred during the 1783 Treaty of Paris negotiations. The treaty makers based their work on maps that showed Lake of the Woods as a simple oval shape rather than its true irregular form with that distinctive northern projection, trapping American territory on the wrong side of what became the international border. Today, roughly 60 year-round residents call this isolated peninsula home, and they've developed unique strategies for navigating the international border that separates them from the rest of America. Residents receive special documentation allowing them to cross through Canada for essential needs like grocery shopping, medical appointments, and school attendance. The nearest American hospital sits 80 miles away through Canadian territory, while the closest grocery store requires the same international journey. Customs enforcement in this remote location operates on an honor system during certain hours, with residents checking in at an unmanned border station using video phones. One local resident described the surreal experience of picking up the phone at the unstaffed crossing and speaking to a border agent hundreds of miles away, explaining their reason for crossing while staring at an empty booth. The area has transformed from a forgotten territorial accident into a destination for serious anglers and hunters who appreciate its pristine wilderness and world-class fishing opportunities on Lake of the Woods. Border security concerns have intensified in recent years, leading to upgraded surveillance technology and more stringent crossing procedures, but residents have adapted to these changes while maintaining their unique lifestyle. The northwest angle represents more than just a cartographic curiosity. It demonstrates how 18th century surveying mistakes continue to shape modern American geography, creating communities that exist in a constant state of international limbo. What would you do if your nearest hospital lay in another country? This question becomes even more complex when you discover places where the very ground beneath your feet seems to belong to the wrong state entirely. The Iowa town that shouldn't exist. Looking at a map of the Omaha metropolitan area, you'll notice something that doesn't make sense. There's a town called Carter Lake that sits completely surrounded by Nebraska, yet every official document confirms it belongs to Iowa. This geographic puzzle exists because of a single catastrophic flood in 1877 that permanently altered the Missouri River's path, stranding an entire community on the wrong side of what should have been a natural state boundary. The Missouri River originally flowed in a wide curve that kept Carter Lake firmly connected to Iowa's mainland. When the 1877 flood struck, it carved a new channel that cut straight through the river's bend, moving the main flow 1.25 miles southeast and creating an oxbow lake where the old riverbed used to run. This oxbow lake became Carter Lake, and the town that grew up around it found itself geographically isolated from the rest of Iowa, completely surrounded by Nebraska territory. The resulting legal battle between Iowa and Nebraska reached the Supreme Court in 1892, where justices faced an unprecedented question about river boundaries and state jurisdiction. The court ruled definitively in Iowa's favor, 1892 Supreme Court ruling, establishing that Carter Lake would remain part of Iowa despite its physical separation. This decision created a crucial legal precedent that departed from the standard rule requiring state boundaries to follow river changes, making Carter Lake a permanent exception to normal boundary law. The town incorporated as a city in July 1930 and quickly became known as a gambling hotspot with minimal law enforcement oversight. One 1930s newspaper headline proclaimed Carter Lake as Nebraska's Sin City in Iowa, capturing the regulatory confusion that entrepreneurs exploited for decades. Today, approximately 3,775 residents navigate the daily complexities of living in Iowa while being completely surrounded by Nebraska. They carry Iowa driver's licenses and vote in Iowa elections, but their mail gets delivered through Omaha postal routes. Emergency services require coordination between two states, with Carter Lake's fire department working closely with Nebraska dispatchers while maintaining Iowa jurisdiction. Law enforcement presents ongoing challenges since Iowa police must technically travel through Nebraska to reach Carter Lake, while Nebraska officers cannot make arrests in Iowa territory. These jurisdictional complications affect everything from property taxes to school district assignments, creating administrative headaches that residents have learned to accept as part of their unique geographic situation. Carter Lake proves that when natural forces reshape the landscape, legal boundaries don't always follow, creating communities that exist as permanent reminders of nature's power to ignore human-drawn lines. But geographic assumptions can be misleading in other ways too, particularly when it comes to measuring distances across vast oceans. America's surprising gateway to Africa. Most Americans would instinctively point to Florida when asked which state sits closest to Africa. The logic seems sound. Florida extends furthest into the Atlantic, boasts a tropical climate, and just feels like it should be America's gateway to the African continent. This assumption turns out to be completely wrong. Maine holds the distinction of being America's closest point to Africa, specifically through Quoddy Head, which sits 3,154 miles from El Jadida, Morocco by Great Circle distance. This measurement beats Florida's closest approach to Africa by over 900 miles, making Maine the clear winner in a geographic contest that surprises nearly everyone who learns about it. The 2025 GPS measurements and satellite mapping technology have confirmed these distances with unprecedented accuracy. Quoddy Head operates as a lighthouse settlement that marks America's easternmost point, a rocky outcrop where the Atlantic Ocean crashes against granite cliffs in conditions that couldn't be more different from Florida's sandy beaches. Picture Maine's harsh, windswept coastline facing Morocco's warm Mediterranean shores. The contrast makes this geographic connection seem almost impossible, yet the Earth's spherical nature creates exactly this counterintuitive relationship. A Maine fisherman recently told researchers his reaction upon learning this fact. "I've been hauling lobster traps my whole life thinking I was about as far from Africa as you could get in America, and now you're telling me I'm closer to Morocco than folks in Miami?" His surprise captures the fundamental way this geographic truth challenges basic assumptions about continental relationships. The lighthouse itself has guided ships through these treacherous waters for generations, serving as both a navigational aid and an unwitting symbol of America's unexpected proximity to North Africa. Ships departing from Maine ports could reach North African destinations faster than vessels leaving from southern ports, giving Maine merchants distinct advantages in Mediterranean trade during the 18th and 19th centuries. Climate change and shifting ocean currents continue to affect these precise measurements, though the fundamental relationship remains unchanged. Rising sea levels and changing ocean temperatures influence exact distances between continental points, but Maine's geographic advantage over Florida persists, regardless of these environmental changes. This geographic fact fundamentally reshapes understanding of America's global position, demonstrating how the Earth's spherical nature creates counterintuitive relationships that flat maps fail to accurately represent. Yet Maine's isolation from Africa pales in comparison to American communities that find themselves cut off from their own country by international borders. The American town cut off by a line. One Point Roberts resident put it bluntly, I need my passport to buy milk. This stark reality defines daily life in Point Roberts, Washington, one of America's most isolated communities, a 5-square-mile peninsula that can only be reached by land through Canada. This geographic anomaly emerged from the 1846 Oregon Treaty, which established the 49th parallel as the international boundary between the United States and British North America. The treaty negotiators drew their straight line across the continent without considering that this arbitrary boundary would slice through the Tawasin Peninsula, leaving the southern tip stranded as American territory completely cut off from the rest of Washington state. The current population of around 1,200 residents faces the extraordinary daily challenge of crossing international borders for basic necessities. Every trip to buy groceries, visit a doctor, or attend work requires passing through Canadian customs and then re-entering the United States. Residents must travel 23 miles north through British Columbia to reach the nearest American territory, making Point Roberts one of the most border-dependent communities in North America. The COVID-19 pandemic transformed these routine border crossings into a crisis, severely limiting access to groceries and healthcare as residents found themselves cut off from essential services. Law enforcement and emergency services face complex jurisdictional challenges in this isolated location. The Whatcom County Sheriff's Office must coordinate with Canadian authorities for any emergency response, while medical emergencies often require transport through international territory to reach appropriate facilities. Fire and ambulance services operate under special agreements that allow rapid border crossings during emergencies, but these arrangements require constant diplomatic maintenance. Point Roberts has evolved from a quiet fishing village into a popular recreational destination, particularly during summer months when visitors arrive for birdwatching and waterfront activities. The area's natural beauty and proximity to Vancouver attracts tourists who can access the peninsula by chartered boat or small aircraft, avoiding the lengthy border crossing routine that residents endure daily. Ongoing debates about the community's future focus on potential solutions to chronic access issues. Discussions include proposals for expedited border crossing procedures, improved infrastructure, and greater recognition of Point Roberts' special circumstances by both American and Canadian governments. Residents have developed remarkable adaptation strategies, obtaining special permits and coordinating with customs officials to maintain their unique lifestyle. Point Roberts represents the unintended consequences of straight-line borders drawn by negotiators who prioritized political simplicity over geographic reality. This community demonstrates how 19th-century diplomatic decisions continue to shape modern American life. But even more confusing situations arise when rivers themselves create the boundaries that trap entire territories in the wrong state. The land that belongs to the wrong state. Deep in the Mississippi River's twisting path lies Kentucky Bend, a 26.9-square-mile piece of Kentucky that finds itself completely surrounded by Missouri and Tennessee. This geographic puzzle exists because the Mississippi River refused to stay in one place, creating what locals call the New Madrid Bend through centuries of meandering that eventually cut off this territory from the rest of Kentucky. The dramatic 1811 to 1812 New Madrid earthquakes accelerated the river's course changes, permanently severing this land from its parent state. These powerful seismic events shifted the Mississippi's flow so dramatically that Kentucky Bend became an island of one state floating in a sea of two others. The river's new path solidified this area's status as an exclave, making it accessible only by traveling through Tennessee or Missouri. 9 residents call this isolated territory home, according to the 2020 census, a population so small it barely registers on most maps. These hardy individuals face the extraordinary challenge of crossing state lines every time they need to reach the rest of Kentucky. The shortest route to Kentucky proper requires a 40-mile journey through Tennessee, making simple tasks like voting or accessing state services into multi-state expeditions. Mail delivery presents ongoing complications since postal workers must navigate Tennessee roads to reach Kentucky addresses. Emergency services operate under complex agreements between 3 states, with ambulances and fire trucks potentially crossing multiple jurisdictions during a single call. Legal jurisdiction becomes particularly murky when crimes or civil disputes involve residents of this geographic orphan. Ongoing confusion about state jurisdiction continues to affect property records and legal proceedings. County officials from 3 states sometimes disagree about which government holds authority over specific issues, creating administrative headaches that residents navigate with patience born from generations of experience. John Hardman Walker's lobbying efforts in the 1890s helped establish clearer administrative procedures for the Bend's unique circumstances. Mark Twain immortalized this geographic oddity in Life on the Mississippi, observing that the Mississippi will always have its own way. No engineering skill can persuade it to do otherwise. His observations about the river's unpredictable nature perfectly captured the forces that created Kentucky Bend. This exclave exemplifies the unpredictable nature of river boundaries, demonstrating how natural forces can override human attempts to create orderly political divisions. Yet sometimes surveyors manage to achieve remarkable precision, creating geographic intersections that represent the opposite extreme of boundary-making accuracy. Where 4 states touch at one point. The Four Corners Monument stands as America's only point where 4 states meet at a single geographic intersection. This precise coordinate represents the convergence of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, creating a unique spot where visitors can literally stand in 4 states simultaneously. The monument itself consists of a bronze disc embedded in granite, marking the exact coordinates where these political boundaries intersect. The complex surveying history behind this intersection traces back to the territorial disputes of the 1860s. The initial boundary was drawn after the Compromise of 1850, creating the New Mexico and Utah territories, followed by the Colorado Territory in 1861. The Union's response to the Confederate States of America gaining traction with the Arizona Territory was to create another of the same name, splitting New Mexico along a north-south line. These territorial divisions during rising tensions between the North and South created the foundation for today's Four Corners intersection. The monument continues to attract substantial visitor numbers in 2025, with tourism officials reporting steady increases in annual visits. The site has become a popular destination for families and geography enthusiasts who want to experience this unique geographic phenomenon firsthand. Visitors often pose for photographs while positioning themselves in all 4 states simultaneously, creating a memorable experience that few other locations can offer. Ongoing controversy surrounds the monument's exact location and surveying accuracy. Historical surveying methods used when the boundary was first established have raised questions about the monument's precise coordinates. This debate highlights the complexities of accurately defining geographic boundaries using 19th-century surveying techniques compared to modern GPS technology. The intersection holds deep cultural significance for Native American tribes whose ancestral lands were divided by these state lines. The monument's presence serves as a reminder of the complex history and ongoing relationship between the tribes and the U.S. government, representing how political boundaries can fragment traditional territories that existed long before European settlement. The intersection creates unique legal and jurisdictional challenges requiring cooperation among 4 states. Law enforcement, taxation, and other governmental functions must navigate the complexities of managing an area where multiple state jurisdictions converge at a single point. Modern GPS technology has confirmed the monument's placement within acceptable surveying tolerances, validating the work of 19th-century surveyors who created this precise intersection. Four Corners represents both human precision and geographic ambition, but America's territorial reach extends far beyond the continental United States into remote Pacific waters, where distance creates even more extraordinary geographic relationships. American islands closer to Russia than America. The Aleutian Islands stretch across the North Pacific like a chain of American stepping stones toward Russia, creating one of the most geographically counterintuitive situations in North America. Attu Island, the westernmost point of the United States, sits just 200 miles from Russian territory while remaining over 1,400 miles from anchorage. This means that American citizens living on these remote islands wake up closer to Moscow than to their own state capital. The 2025 population data shows approximately 8,000 residents scattered across the entire Aleutian chain, with military personnel making up a significant portion of this number. These communities face extraordinary challenges governing territory so far from mainland America, requiring specialized supply chains, emergency services, and communication systems that can operate across vast Pacific distances. Every basic necessity must be planned months in advance due to weather-dependent transportation schedules. The islands gained critical importance during World War II when Japan invaded and occupied Attu Island, marking the only time enemy forces controlled American soil during the war. The Battle of Attu became a bloody campaign that highlighted the strategic value of these remote territories and led to permanent military infrastructure development throughout the region. This wartime experience demonstrated how geographic isolation could become a military liability, requiring constant defensive attention. Ongoing geopolitical significance shapes U.S.-Russia relations through the island's proximity to Russian territory. Both nations maintain increased military activity in the region, including naval patrols, aerial surveillance, and advanced military technology deployment. The strategic importance of the Bering Strait and Arctic shipping routes makes these islands crucial monitoring points for international maritime traffic and potential military movements. Climate change poses significant threats to these remote communities through rising temperatures, changing weather patterns, and coastal erosion. Melting glaciers and sea ice contribute to habitat loss and increased storm surges that affect indigenous Aleut populations who depend on traditional fishing, hunting, and gathering practices. Ocean acidification threatens marine ecosystems that support both local communities and wildlife populations. Residents cope with extreme isolation through strong social networks, traditional knowledge, and remarkable self-sufficiency. Communities rely on resource-based industries like fishing, while maintaining mutual support systems that help them survive harsh weather conditions and limited access to outside services. The Aleutian Islands represent America's furthest reach into the Pacific, serving as strategic outposts that demonstrate the country's vast geographic diversity. Yet while these islands showcase America's territorial extremes, some of the most unusual boundaries exist much closer to home, where colonial-era decisions created geometric shapes that defy conventional border logic. The state border that's actually a circle. Delaware possesses America's only circular state boundary, a 12-mile arc that creates the most geometrically unique border in the entire United States. This perfect circle centers on New Castle, Delaware, and forms the boundary between Delaware and Pennsylvania in a way that defies every other state border arrangement across the country. The circular shape stands out dramatically when viewed on maps, appearing as if someone drew it with a compass rather than following natural features or surveying lines. The origins of this unusual boundary trace back to King Charles II's 1681 land grant to William Penn, which gave Penn control over land west of the Delaware River. However, the Duke of York had previously acquired the area from Dutch colonists, creating a territorial conflict that required creative resolution. The circular boundary emerged as a compromise solution, allowing the Duke of York to maintain his exception while establishing clear territorial limits for Penn's new colony. New Castle serves as the center point of this 12-mile circle, giving the small town extraordinary significance in American boundary history. The town's position as the circle center means that every point along Delaware's northern border sits exactly 12 miles from New Castle's courthouse, creating a mathematical precision that no other state boundary can match. This arrangement affects property development and land values throughout the region, as proximity to the circular boundary creates unique zoning and jurisdictional considerations. Delaware's claim to the entire Delaware River creates ongoing disputes with New Jersey that persist in 2025. This claim defies standard water boundary rules, which typically place state boundaries in the middle of rivers rather than granting complete control to one state. The Supreme Court has attempted to resolve these concerns through various rulings, But legal battles continue over river rights and jurisdiction, affecting everything from fishing regulations to shipping traffic. The practical challenges of surveying and maintaining a circular border require specialized techniques and constant monitoring. Unlike straight-line boundaries that can be marked with simple monuments, the circular border demands precise mathematical calculations to ensure accuracy at every point along its 12-mile radius. Delaware has demonstrated remarkable determination in defending its river claims, even requesting National Guard assistance in the early 2000s as a symbolic gesture during particularly intense disputes with New Jersey. This circular boundary represents colonial-era politics that continue affecting modern America,